Welcome to Never By the Book podcast. I'm your host, Kelly Schols. At 24, I was dead broke and a full-blown alcoholic. By age 40, I was completely out of debt and financially free. Now I share my secrets of success and transformation with audiences around the world as an author, speaker, coach, success mentor, and of course, your podcast host. Each Never By the Book episode features a guest who has overcome obstacles to build an incredible life of fulfillment. In today's episode, we answer the question, how did a plumber go from $1 million in debt to a multi-millionaire in less than 5 years? In 2019, Richard Flournoy found himself buried in debt. Business was struggling. He needed help. 3 years later, in 2022, Richard became a multi-millionaire. How did he do it? Today, you'll hear Richard's inspiring journey starting at age 10 when he was working in his dad's plumbing business to starting A Total Plumbing at age 24. We'll explore his life-changing experience of raising a disabled son, and finally, why he sought out coaching and accountability in 2019, resulting in extraordinary financial success. Let's jump into From Rags to Riches with my friend, Richard Flournoy. Welcome, Richard. I see you're hanging out there in the pavilion today.
Yes, sir. It's a beautiful day.
Your house is in Cartersville, right?
I actually live in Rydell, Georgia, which is about 15 miles northwest of Cartersville.
Okay. So next time I'm out there, are we actually going to come to your house?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Let's talk about your childhood a little bit. What type of childhood did you have?
My grandfather's a plumber. My dad's a plumber. So I've been plumbing basically since I was 10 years old. I'd go with my dad every summer until I graduated high school. So basically just been plumbing my entire life.
Okay. What kind of kid and student were you?
Probably what you would expect, underperformer.
So you started plumbing at 10 years old. So did you work when you were in school and on the summers and all that?
Every summer from 10 years old all the way till I graduated high school, and then I became a full-time plumber.
Okay. And when did you start your own company?
So for a short period of time, I decided to leave plumbing, and I actually got a job at Amazon. Amazon used to have not a small warehouse, but a very large warehouse in Locust Grove, Georgia. At the time, they were really big into books, and they were just getting into like the toys and the all the stuff that you get from Amazon now. They didn't really have a whole lot of work.
Mm-hmm.
I worked five 12-hour shifts. We typically only had enough work for about 3 hours a night. It was pretty boring, but that's I worked there for just a little while. It's where I met Felicia. Her and I became problem solvers. We worked side by side, and I was like, we sure are working really hard, which we weren't working really hard. We were just working long hours, and it was 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. I could go back into plumbing and probably make a lot more money and not have to work these crazy hours. And so I decided I would leave and go get a job besides working for my dad. And I went and applied at several places, and nobody would hire me because my driving record was absolutely horrible.
Mm-hmm.
So I finally found a place and that I really liked. And I said, if my girlfriend drives me, would you hire me? And they said, well, sure. So Felicia drove me around for about a year. And about a year later, I decided to open A Total Plumbing. And when I say I was dead broke, I was dead broke.
You said bad driving record. How come your driving record was so bad?
I had a lot of speeding tickets.
Okay. So were you a little rebel growing up?
We'll just say I spent a lot of time in school suspension.
Okay. Yeah, I get that. You and Felicia met at Amazon. Had you guys got married by then?
We had not. We had just started dating. We worked there together, and we started dating because we were spending a lot of time together, riding back and forth to work. But shortly after that, when I got the plumbing job, we decided to move to the north part of Atlanta and we lived together for a little while. And we ended up married. And then right after, actually, we started the business a month before we got married.
Okay. Oh, so quite a bit of going on there, getting married, starting a business.
Yeah, we started the business in June of 2001, and we got married in July of 2001.
Oh, wow. Okay. So you had your plate full.
Mm-hmm.
And you said you were dead broke. So were you very good with money or not good with money?
No, I was not good with money. We lived paycheck to paycheck. I was able to take out a half-page ad in the yellow pages, no credit check. I think it was $600 a month back then, and they let you pay it in the rear. So my grandfather, I seen he had an old van,
Mm-hmm.
and I asked him if I could have it because I didn't have money to buy it. And he said, absolutely not. You can't have this van. He said, you can rent it from me. So he rented it to me for $50 a week. It was Smurf blue.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, I can't work out of a Smurf blue van. So I took it home and I bought some house latex paint, interior paint, and I rolled it black. Worked out of that van for about a year.
And when did Felicia start working with you?
In June of 2001, when we opened the business, it was just me. And it was fairly busy during the summer. And then we had a slowdown right in the middle of August. So I applied to do home warranty work. And so on September 12th, 2001, American Home Shield approved me to start doing their warranty work. And the reason I remember that is because everybody knows what happened on September 11th, 2001.
Yeah.
That Felicia was on her way to real estate school. So
Okay.
she hadn't started with me yet. And she said, turn on the TV. They're crashing planes into buildings. And she thought it was in Atlanta,
Right.
but of course it was in New York. But she, to make a long story short, she came on, started at A Total the very next summer.
Okay. And then when did you guys have kids? I know you got two beautiful kids, Jackson and Madigan. So let's talk about your kids and that a little bit.
So when we started doing the home warranty work, they don't really commit to giving you any certain amount of calls, but they gave us 3 calls per day, which is pretty good for one person.
Mm-hmm.
And I had never had any visions of being any more than just me in a truck. And if you fast forward to late 2002, late 2002, we found out we're pregnant with our first child, Jackson. And 3 months into the pregnancy, they tell us that Jackson's going to have a lot of medical problems. I knew that we needed more people because I knew I was about to have a financial hardship. So I asked for enough work orders so that I could get another truck. And so they committed to giving me enough work orders for a second truck. And then fast forward to July of 2003, Jackson was born. It's kind of a blur, but immediately they had a lot of people rushing in the room to put a tube down his throat because he couldn't breathe. And they take him back to the emergency room, and they have to put a tube so they can put a ventilator on him. So he had to immediately go on a ventilator and oxygen. For the first year of life, he lived in the hospital. They told us that he wouldn't live much past a little over a year. And then Thursday of this week, he'll be celebrating his 20th birthday.
Yeah, that's awesome. So you've described Jackson to me as your little angel.
Much like your story, I was a heavy drinker, and I probably wasn't the best person. And when I say that, I wasn't a bad person. I was just probably out partying too much. It was all about chasing that buzz from the alcohol.
Right.
And typically every day I was drinking pretty heavy. And I always say that God gave Jackson to me to keep me alive, and me to Jackson to keep him alive.
Yeah. And he's, like you said, he celebrated his 20th birthday.
It's a good deal. I'll keep that deal. I love that deal.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit more about Jackson.
So Jackson, he's, in a lot of ways, I still think of him as a baby. He's about 3 months old developmentally. He doesn't crawl, but he's a very happy kid. We have been blessed to be able to take him to Disney World every year since he was about 4. We sometimes we put it on a credit card. There's one time that we went, and on the way there, I went to the bank to withdraw money, and the bank goes, "You need to come inside." And I go inside, and they said, "You're way overdrawn on your accounts." And so I had 2 debit cards from another account, from 2 other accounts that had a little bit of money in them, and they let you go over on them. So I went over on them so we could get there and get started. And somebody had wrote the business a bad check, and they made it good while we were there, so we were able to complete the trip. And then, I might have left this out, but while Jackson was living in the hospital for the first year of life, we got pregnant and had our second child, Madigan. And Madigan's, sometimes I tend to leave Madigan out, not intentionally, but so much stuff goes on with Jackson. But Madigan just completed her first year of college, and she's at home this summer helping out with Jackson. Matter of fact, one of the splurges that I'm doing right now is we completely built Jackson a handicap accessible room. And
Awesome.
it's got like a Hoyer lift that goes from the bed all the way to the bathtub, so that it make it easy to give him a bath. But as far as family dynamic, I mean, of course, Jackson needs 24-hour care. We get nursing at night. We're blessed with that, and that's pretty much it.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah. So you said you almost couldn't afford to take him to Disneyland. What was your thought process there, and why were you at that point where you were living paycheck to paycheck?
They always say that you learn from your 3 Ps:
Mm-hmm.
your parents, peers, and previous experiences.
Right.
And my parents, peers, and previous experiences all said that you lived off credit cards and you all lived above your means. And I lived like that until I met Kelly. There were times when there was more money than others, but it was a shoestring budget all the way up until 2019. And that, Kelly. You know how far in debt I was in 2019.
I do know that when we started working together. Yes. So what brought you to the point to where you just said enough is enough and end up hiring me as your coach?
Well, so if you back up till, we always made, from 2007 to 2015, we made pretty good money doing the home warranty work. In 2015, we also opened a water mitigation company, and that water mitigation company did pretty well. So fast forward to 2016, I noticed the plumbing company checking account shrinking and shrinking and shrinking. And I'm like, I don't know what we can do. We probably need to hire a consultant. So I went and searched for a best practice group to join, and we decided to join Service Nation Alliance. We joined Service Nation Alliance, and I remember going to the boot camp, and we seen a little pamphlet about Chris Hunter. So we decided to hire Chris Hunter, and we used him for 8 weeks. And initially, they put me in Kelly's group. I don't know if you remember this, but they initially put me in your AB group, and the time didn't work, so they moved me over to Ed O'Connell's. And I did okay with Chris.
Mm-hmm.
He's amazing person, amazing coach. And I did okay with Ed, but I didn't really start to do well until I went to an event. It was March of 2019. I went into a blue collar success group seminar inside of a service roundtable thing. And they had join and get this accountability coaching, and they had a phenomenally cheap price. I don't remember what it was, but it was a really good deal, and it was only for 3 months. And they introduced me to Kelly, and then Kelly goes, "It's going to be tough." And I remember telling him all the debt that I was in, and he was probably thinking, "There's no way we're going to get you out of debt." But do you remember that?
I do remember it. Yes. And the thing is you reached out for help. You weren't happy where you were at, so you reached out to find out what you can do to better yourself, right?
Well, success always leaves clues,
Mm-hmm.
and you always find somebody who's already blazed the path before you. And the easiest way to be successful is to copy that person.
Right.
And I think if you and I would have met earlier, it might not have worked as well as it did. I think my mind needed to be opened up a little more before we got together. And I remember you saying, we'll whittle this down. I can't remember the exact number of debt that I had, but it was well over $1 million in debt.
Business and personal.
Business and personal.
Okay. So at that point, were you doing budgets personally or for the company, or were you running the business through your financials and your numbers?
So in 2019, there were no books, there were no budgets. It was, we got money in the bank, we can spend it.
And that kind of went the same way at home, didn't it?
How you do anything is how you do everything.
That's right. Do you remember the conversation we had after about 6 months of me coaching you on the business side? Do you remember the conversation we had about whether I was going to continually coach you or not?
Jog my memory a little bit. I think I know what you're talking about.
I kept asking you to get financial statements for your business, and you weren't getting them. Because in order to have a good, clean, strong business, you should have accurate financial statements by the 10th of every month. And you weren't getting them. And by this point, A Total had started growing pretty good, hadn't they?
It had.
Yeah.
I think I remember you saying, if you don't get these, then I'm going to quit working with you.
Yeah. And then the next thing was, I need to work with you personally.
Mm-hmm.
And what did you say?
I don't remember.
I need to talk to Felicia.
I need to talk to Felicia for sure.
Yeah. And her comment was, it's about time.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what she said.
But once we started working together and started getting you organized with your personal finances, your business changed dramatically as well, didn't it?
Yeah. Over the next couple of years, we completely paid off the company debt.
Mm-hmm.
And we had almost all the personal debt paid off, and by the end of 2020. So or 2021. So almost $1 million of debt in a couple of years.
For my audience, that's going to be pretty tough for a lot of people to comprehend that. How did you do that?
I never gave up.
Never gave up. Yeah. And we came up with a plan together, and you implemented that, didn't you?
I would say to myself, I'm here to persevere and never give up. And that's what we say. That's what we say in martial arts is you can't lose if you don't quit.
Yeah. That's something I want my audience to really think about is, here's a guy who's $1 million in debt, doesn't know anything about financials because he'd been taught to put everything on a credit card and live paycheck to paycheck. So we had to do a complete mind shift with you, didn't we?
Oh, for sure. I remember in March of 2020, I bought my daughter a car and I financed it. and Kelly goes, next time you want to buy something and you're going to finance it, you call me before you sign those papers.
That's worked out pretty well since then, hasn't it?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So we worked together, and like I said, I want my audience to really comprehend what he said there is he was never going to give up. And a lot of people get into debt like that and they do give up. They don't know what to do. But Richard did what you should do, and that's try and find somebody who's been there and done it, right?
Well, and I will say that the number one thing that probably will make you a success is you got to be vulnerable and you got to share everything with, if you hire a coach, you got to share everything with them, because if you don't, they can't help you.
Yeah.
They can only help what you tell them about. And if you only give them part of the picture, then they're not going to be able to coach you efficiently. And so, you just have to be vulnerable. And then you have to be willing to go outside your comfort zone and do what feels unnatural.
Yeah. And we've done that. And we've not just business relationship, but we've grown to have a personal relationship as best friends.
Absolutely. Yep. I remember we were going to go to a service roundtable event a couple of years ago, and you got a little bit of a scare, and I was ready to fly out to Washington, and you told me there was no need, but no, I love you like a brother, Kelly.
Yeah. Thank you, sir. Yeah. So you get to where you pay off all this debt. Things are going good. And then what happens last summer?
So what is really odd about this whole thing is Kelly goes, this is, if you back up a year, right before the pandemic, Kelly goes, I just went and visited a heating and air company in Atlanta called Moncrief. I just did a financial thing, and I met Phil and his dad, and absolutely amazing people. And they just recently sold. Maybe you'd be interested in doing that. Maybe I could connect you at some point. Of course, the pandemic hits and nobody thinks about this. And you fast forward just a little bit further. And a broker calls me and asks me if I'm interested in selling. And I told him no. And then the guy from Grove Mountain Partners called me and he asked me if I was interested in selling. I said, I'd be interested in talking with you. And so I went and met with him and I talked to him. And I really didn't want to sell to him. And so Felicia got on the phone with him and she said, unless you're going to give us XYZ, leave us alone. And they asked if we'd send a little bit of information, and they ended up saying yes. They'd give us the amount of money that we had asked for. And then we get into this group, and there's Moncrief Heating and Air. So somebody Kelly had thought about introducing me to, but because of the pandemic, we never made it click. So it was probably always destined to happen.
But I think more important than that, Richard, is yes, you've come from a lot of debt to being debt free to very wealthy now, but what you've been able to provide for your family. And I've seen that. And I remember getting a phone call when you bought the van.
So this was a little bit before we sold, but I remember the business was really starting to produce a lot of cash. And so we had went to Disney World, and they had came and picked us up in a van that had a wheelchair lift. And I'm thinking, why haven't we had a wheelchair lift? One, we probably couldn't have afforded it till that point. So God didn't expose us to it until we had the financial means to do it. And I remember we went and got the van, and I remember I took a picture and I sent it to Kelly, and I said, I want to blame this on you, Kelly. He said, blame what on me? I said, it's all your fault. Jackson has a van lift, and it's making and we went we still go everywhere, but we'd go everywhere in that van. The first week, Jackson went, every day he was somewhere, but it's just improved his quality of life. And because of the relationship that I built with Kelly, and because I was coachable, Jackson's quality of life got better. And so that's a blessing from God in itself.
Well, and it's not about me, Richard. This is about you. And it doesn't matter if it was me or somebody else coaching you. You were at the point in your life where you were willing to accept it. You had got to a point where it's like, okay, something needs to change. So what was it at that point in your life where you just said, enough's enough?
It's probably in my DNA because, even at this current moment, I feel like enough's enough. I feel like, I'm just a different spot and a different journey. But I think it's always about that bigger goal
Hmm.
and bettering my life, the people around me's life, because you can have anything you want in life if you just help enough other people get what they want. And that's exactly what Kelly did, was he helped me get what I needed in life. And I'm sure by default he got what he wanted in life. It's
Yeah.
it's I don't know what. I think it's just wired that I just was tired of living paycheck to paycheck and being stressed.
Hmm. You're not living paycheck to paycheck anymore, are you?
No, sir.
No, sir.
You know what's funny though is I'm still chasing goals just like I did before.
Hmm.
Before it was a goal, a revenue number, and then to get rid of that debt, and then this. Now it's all about just trying to improve myself.
So what do you think it is that, and the mindset that you have, that you set these goals, that you go after stuff? I mean, because I have a lot of people and a lot of people in my audience that don't do that. So what could you tell the audience to give them a mindset and a shift to say, I want to become debt free. I want to provide more for my family.
I think a lot of people are afraid to fail,
Hmm.
and I think that failure, they want to succeed, but their fear of failure stops them from starting.
Hmm.
I'm here to tell you that if I can do it, anybody can do it. I mean, I'm 47 years old, and I just went to Trinidad and Tobago and got my black belt. I even didn't think I was going to make it, but I made it. And same thing with the debt. I didn't think I was going to make it, but I knew, just keep trying and you'll eventually get there. You've got to, the hardest thing to do, like become a black belt, is to put on your white belt. The hardest thing to do to get debt free is to just make that first step.
Yeah, I like that.
That first step is the hardest one.
And then what you said earlier in the show, never give up.
Never give up. And where I got that, the leader of my karate is Professor Don Jacobs of Don Jitsu Ryu, and he won the Hummingbird Medal in Trinidad and Tobago. And they asked him, "How did you get here?" And he said, "I never gave up."
Yeah, I like that. So anybody listening, don't ever give up. If you want to become debt free, you can do it. Whatever you want in life, you can get, right, Richard?
You can have anything you want in life if you just try hard enough.
Yeah.
So, recently my company was acquired by Ace Hardware,
Hmm.
and we'll see where. At first, I thought I would sell, work here 2 years, and I don't know how long I'll be here, but I think I'll be here for a long time. I think I'll be at Ace. It's I just want to learn all I can and contribute all I can to Ace Hardware. So I will say that as a small business, former business owner, now business president, I will say that sometimes you get where you're working all the time.
Hmm.
And even though Jackson goes to work with me, sometimes he may not get the attention that he deserves. When we go to Disney World, it's Jackson's week. We are 100% focused on Jackson. It's everything we do revolves around Jackson. From the transportation, we make sure we stay somewhere where they have the buses where we can get on there with the wheelchair lift. We They have, each park within Disney World has probably 4 or 5 rides that Jackson can ride, and the wheelchair just goes in them. His favorite is Winnie the Pooh, and our running joke in the family is Jackson breaks Winnie the Pooh every time he rides it. This last time he did not break it, but every time we ride it, because it's such an old ride,
Uh-huh.
it breaks and they have to stop it for about 10 minutes and fix it. but he loves that Winnie the Pooh ride, and it bounces a little bit, and he just likes the bright lights. On this most recent trip, we thought we knew everything about Disney World because we've been so many times. Mm-hmm. And we're walking through Epcot, and we see this thing that says Figment, and we go in there, and they have another ride that his wheelchair will go on. It's always been there, but it was so cool to discover the ride.
Okay, that's awesome.
But I would just say that the number one thing is it's Jackson's time. And just like on Thursday, his birthday, we're going to take him to the IMAX over at Fernbank Science Center. And I think they have a turtle movie, and it's going to be Jackson's Day.
That's awesome. So what's next on the agenda?
I'm currently working on getting my 2nd degree black belt. That's hopefully next July. If I get I've semi been approved, but I got a long way to go. The martial arts that I do is Purple Dragon Danjutsu Ryu. It's based out of Trinidad and Tobago. To get your black belt, it's a 3-day test. It starts at 6 o'clock on a Friday, and it ends about 6 o'clock on Sunday. And when I say it starts at 6 o'clock and ends at 6 o'clock on Sunday, you're on the floor from 6 p.m. to about midnight, and then you sleep on the floor. And then you get up early the next day, and then you're on the floor from about 7 a.m. till about midnight. And then you sleep on the floor, and then you get up about 4 a.m. and you go do a run. And then when you come back, they give you a little break, and then you do your fighting, and then they announce your results. But it's a long weekend, and it's a painful purging, purification process. One of the things they say that I know you'll like this in our martial arts is they say the professor doesn't really know you until you're tired. Yeah. And so you don't really know somebody until you see what they'll do when they're tired, or when they're faced with difficult problems.
Yeah,
and so
adversity.
Adversity, because a lot of people tuck their tail and run. Same with debt, but there's no reason to. I'm telling you, anybody, if you want to get debt free, go out and get you a mentor and do everything they say. That's the best advice I could give you with that.
I mean, like myself, I had a lot of people help me. So I really enjoy helping other people. People who have been successful will help other people. It's just finding the right person and surrounding yourself with the person. And, you went through what? 2 of them before you and I met.
I did. Absolutely.
And, we met at the right time. Now, the 2 strong points for me from you are never give up and surround yourself with the right people.
They always say you become the average of the 5 people that you hang out with. And so if you surround yourself with successful people, then you become successful, because they're not going to allow you to stay in their group if you don't. They're going to boot you out. I started hanging out with this guy named Kelly Schols. He was a millionaire with a book. Now I'm a millionaire without a book, but maybe the book's coming.
When's the book coming?
It may be a while.
All right. Well, that'll be the next thing we'll have to start with. All right. Any parting shots for my audience, Richard?
The hardest step is that first step, and you got to be honest with yourself. You can do anything.
Thank you for being on. I appreciate it. Tell your family hi for me, and hopefully I'll be seeing you real soon. Thank you so much for listening to Never Buy the Book. Share it with someone you care about, and don't forget to subscribe through your favorite podcast app so you'll never miss an episode. As we close today, remember, if you aren't doing it by the book, it might just mean you're on to something great. Until next time, be great.
Woohoo!
Woohoo!
Yeah, that was the best Be Great you've ever done.
Do you think so? Thank you.
Yeah. You must be eating great. Frosted. Are you eating Frosted Flakes?
No, I actually ate Honey Nut Cheerios.
Oh, they're better for you, probably. Frosted Flakes.
Yeah. Perfect.
That's great. Okay. We got it all. Thanks so much. Talk to you soon.
Talk soon. Bye.
Bye.